Welcome to Two Brothers Talking. I'm Israel. And today I'm flying solo, but I'm joined by a great guest, a wonderful friend, a great leader, and even better, human being. Franklin Walker, welcome to the show.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
How is the family doing? I know they're spread out across the country.
Uh,
What you guys been up to?
oh man, family's doing well. As you may recall, I have four children. My oldest is in Texas, finishing up school and working. I have a daughter that's in her senior year in high school. I have another son we just dropped off at the University of Illinois as a freshman, and then we have a 6-year-old. My wife and I, like I said, we busy, man. We all over here running around with like our heads cut off, trying to manage everything and also maintain professional careers. My wife leads learning and development for Granger, and of course, I work here at Allstate.
That's pretty awesome and phenomenal career paths you both have had. But there's something that struck me as an important item for both of you was putting family first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Family is extremely important. Matter of fact, I just left Texas right before the storm hit. So I just left. I was there last weekend supporting my daughter. She's the captain of cheerleading in Texas. And, they honored her. She was selected to the Hall of Fame for our high school, as well as two-time All-American. So I
Wow.
was there supporting her. She got a 4.0 GPA, extremely proud of her. And like I said, and flew right back here to get ready for work, And so family is important. Like I said, the prior week, 3 weeks before that, we were in Illinois, dropping my son off, first year in college, fighting Illini. So we were doing that whole deal. And then, like I said, 2 weeks ago, we put our little 6-year-old in kindergarten. So, man, we busy.
Wow. Yeah, and that's quite a number of things to keep track of. But I think that one of the things that helps is your experience with leading multiple offices and having multiple items that you need to take care of on a daily basis. I'm sure that helps at home, making sure that you keep things prioritized, especially as something as important as family.
Absolutely. It definitely helps. But, what really helps is, being, spiritually grounded. That
Mm.
helps. Having a solid foundation, just, with my wife, that helps tremendously. And then, having, core family members around you, to pitch in and or to encourage, be there for you. So, it takes a village.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And some people call it, your tribe. Some people call it your squad. We call it your circle of friends here on the show.
Right.
Whatever you call it, you need those people around you to help ground you, to help support you, to help encourage you, give you timely feedback. And of course, like you mentioned, something that grounds you so much is faith.
Right.
And I know that influences a lot of the way you lead with integrity. What was your childhood like? Did you grow up in that atmosphere, or did events shape your perspective at an early age that led you to there?
I grew up in the deep South, um, in Alabama. So I was born and raised, and the Bible Belt, and so religion and spirituality and things like that was just commonplace growing up. I think one of the things that interesting thing about me growing up as a kid, I think, um, and I think it has shaped me and it's definitely influenced my life, is that when I was young, probably 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, I used to go up in the pulpit during the service and sit in the pastor's chair. And I was the only child that he allowed to do that. And I remember when people tried to remove me from the seat, and he would be like, "Don't remove that, man.
Yeah.
That's a young preacher. That's a young preacher right there in the
Yeah.
making." And who would know that years later that actually became true?
That's awesome. It reminds me of a you know, there's a part in the Bible where the children try to rush to to be at Jesus' feet, and they some folks try to stop him. And he's like, "Hey, don't stop, don't stop them." That
Absolutely.
just calls to kind of memory that picture there where you're
Right.
going, because it's something that I'm sure drew you and you were just drawn to it. and that's remarkable. That even then that man of God, that pastor said, you know what, hey, let him be. He's gonna be
Absolutely.
he's gonna be a preacher one day, and that's pretty
Right.
awesome.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like I said, I that has a huge impact on my leadership style and how I just uh, of the world. Period. How I see things in the world and how I've grown to evolve. You know, over the course of years from being a very rambunctious, rebellious child to where I'm at today.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, kind of talking about how did you get to where you are today, specifically career wise. You're a pretty successful leader in the organization that we are in. You've been in various leadership positions. Where did you start, and what did you do to get to where you are right now?
I started as an adjuster 20 years ago, actually, in Houston, Texas, um, and it was very interesting. Like I said, I started out as an LDU adjuster. Probably within 6 months of me starting with Allstate at the time, my office closed.
Wow.
Offices were shut down. People were losing their jobs, things like that. But Allstate, one of the things that stood out to me was Allstate gave people an opportunity to maintain a job, if you would relocate to two of the other offices that were on one of the other offices was 50 miles away from me, right? And they gave me an opportunity to relocate to that office. And that's where, really my career just really took off. Um, not initially, because initially I was probably a lot more um, I didn't understand corporate life. I had come from, working in criminal justice to working in corporate America. And that was an interesting transition. So I started there as an adjuster. And then I remember getting the opportunity to do a TDY across town, another 30 miles across town from where I was at,
Wow.
to participate in, like I said, my first talent share opportunity. It was to be an attorney rep adjuster, and it actually happened off of someone else that was on TDY. They made a mistake,
Hmm.
a really really bad mistake, and my RCL at the time um, presented me with the opportunity. No extra pay, no anything, no promise of anything. It was, you get to learn a new skill
Yeah.
that'll help you. And I took that opportunity, and that was a valuable life lesson right there in that moment. Um, and that scenario, or that belief of, that of chasing the skills, is what I've always been after.
Hmm.
I've never been after chasing the money or chasing the title. I've been after chasing the skill. And that has existed with me all the way through now. And that's how I've been able to navigate several different roles, take on several different challenges, because my mentality was about um, building skills, and then eventually that led into me. Um, how I became an informal leader was because I took those skills and I taught the people around me whatever I learned that was new.
Hmm.
So when I learned about attorney rep stuff and I went back to my original office after I learned it, then I taught them, on the unrep side, what they needed to do in order to successfully move files over to attorney rep, what they need to do to try to avoid, getting files to attorney rep. So, how does it impact your pending? How does it impact how does your conversation impact, you know, uh, the file, the claim, etc. And I took that, with me, and as every role I had, that just became a hallmark. And before I was ever formally a leader, I was a leader within the office because I just genuinely gave of myself.
Hmm.
And so when I finally did get into leadership, it made a lot of sense for people around me when those announcements came out, because they're like, "Oh yeah, we know." So people embraced it,
Yeah.
you know. So
And I think that that's a big missing right now in a lot of folks might not know. That's a crucial part of being a leader is being a leader when no one's looking. Being a leader when you don't
right,
necessarily have the title or the pay. I think that
right,
that helps get you to the point where you could be seen as a leader among your peers. What would you tell someone, a young professional, what advice would you give them? It's at a pivotal point in their career saying, you know what,
Yeah.
I want to be a leader. I want to be more than what I am right now. What would be like one piece of advice you would give them?
Really and truly, the best advice I could give right now um, is be the leader already. And what I mean by that, in being the leader already. So one of the things I picked up on really quickly, and people that I mentor, I share these things with them. But I'll use it as an example. Um, when I was an adjuster before I got into leadership, one of the things I did was I watched the leaders and I studied and I understood. I paid attention to what things were important to them, and what things brought stress, because when you're not the leader and you're just in the mix with everyone else, then you hear all the gossip, you hear all what's
Mm,
going on, you hear what the qualms are, you hear what the challenges are, etc. So I started putting myself in the position of, if I was the leader, how would I handle what I just overheard? How would I handle uh you know the morale issue that may exist in the team? What
mm,
would be my strategy for doing that? So I didn't tell no one this. These are things that I was doing internally as I was doing my job, but I was just like writing down how I would say it, how I would lead it, you know, and then I'd observe, okay, what did the leader do? What worked well? What didn't work well? Right? What can I take from them, etc. These are things that I learned, and as I grew in my career, I honed that even more. So when I became a team leader, after I learned the team leader role, the next role for me was to be a CSL. So before I was ever a CSL, I was already observing the
mm,
CSLs and paying attention to how they do, how they move, etc. And I'd pay attention to their mistakes, I'd pay attention to their strengths, and etc. And so I would play these scenarios back in my head. I would play all this stuff back. And then eventually I got to the point where I would start engaging with those leaders and sharing some of my ideas, and or just trying to partner with them to say, okay, well, look, I'm able to help with this, I'm able to help with that. So to demonstrate my willingness to assist, to be an asset, not be a threat,
mm.
be an asset, uh, to help them, because leadership is tough.
Yep.
So hey, I'm an informal person, hey, can I take some off the plate? Me taking off the plate was me learning new skills on top of my plate that I already had. So I added these things on. Those things, brought favor, right? These are things I duplicated. Every role I had, I duplicated
Mm.
that same effort. So I was already the leader in my mind before I ever got the role. Why that's critically important, because that shaped how I actually behaved.
Yeah.
That shaped how I carried myself around people, that shaped how I wanted to be viewed, how I wanted to be seen, the perceptions that I wanted people to have of me. So, that whole concept of, you know, being a leader when no one's watching, that's in my heart. That's real. I'm a leader in my home, outside my home. I carry that leadership hat with me. I remember when I was in Yuma, for example, um, I would be careful about how I went to the store, because the community we're in.
Yep.
I'd be careful about how I was seen or what I was doing, because I wanted to make sure to always represent, because you have no idea who's looking up to
Yep.
you. You have no idea who's observing and paying attention, and things of that nature. So I want to always set a good example for people. And so those things carried me forth. And that's what I share with folks that I mentor. And, that's my secret key to success in that regard.
And I think that that's a phenomenal perspective to have to carry in life. I remember a conversation we were having, and it was more of a coaching conversation. It was a brand issue for me, and you were giving me feedback as a leader. One of the things you told me was, Israel, you can't just take the leader cap off. You can't just take it off when you leave,
Right.
work, and that feeds into that mentality you were just sharing of everywhere you go, you have to be the same leader.
Right. No, That's so critically important, right? Because there's nothing worse than being than people realizing that you're not true to what your principles are. You're not true to who you say you are. And there are many leaders
Hmm.
that there are people that fall in that bucket as their demise, right? Because here I am, I'm someone at work, and then you see me somewhere different, and I'm totally different. And to each his own. But for me,
Yeah.
I take that leadership hat serious. So it helps you because that's what grounds you. If this is who you are, this is who you are. I lead with my family. I lead with our friends that we engage with. It shapes everything about me. And I think that's the best way to really approach leadership. You gotta really be in it for the right reasons.
Hmm. That's good advice. Your career has spanned, like you said, over 20 years. What keeps you inspired in your development to keep reaching for that next? Like you mentioned, you're not in it for the pay, you're not in it for the title, but what helps you stay on that cutting edge?
The thing that helps me, Israel, is man, I love my gift is helping people.
Hmm.
This is the gift that God has given me you know, to help others. And in life, all people want to do is be successful no matter what it is. People want to be successful at their job. They want to be successful in your home. You want to be successful with your children. You want to be successful in your hobbies. Success is that key thing that, you know, that's what we have in common. And, uh, but everyone is struggling trying to figure out how to get there in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So, um, I'm passionate about helping people discover how to get there on that journey. Why? Because hey, that's my responsibility. I was one struggling and trying to figure my way through it. And there was a lot of emotional tolls that came with that journey. There was a lot of, you know, sacrifice that came with that journey. But there was also reward that came with that journey. And so sometimes you have to help people uh, see it all the way through. And I like to try to help people see it through, no matter what it is that you're going through, what it is that you're facing. So I'm inspired by just people. And
Hmm.
for me, there's no situation too big. There's no situation that I don't think I can handle. I mean, that's my mentality about it, right? Um, give me the toughest office, give me the toughest people, give me whatever you think is terrible, I see as gold.
Hmm.
That I see as gold. I'm down for it. I'm like, because I get inspired when I see people, you know, catch on. And when you see people on fire and believing and seeing success, man, it's like it's no greater high than that, man, to
Right.
see people like really winning. And I just told my leaders the other day, or two of my leaders the other day, I'm like, at the end of the day, I want y'all to win.
Hmm.
You know, I may not get to, Martin Luther King's right. I may not get to the promised land with you, but I want you to win.
Yeah.
Understand that. That's why I'm here, is to help you win in life. And work is a part of life. And so I don't just focus on work. I focus on the whole person. So when you engage with me, we working on, you working with a person that understands that we bring our personal things into the job because it's life. We bring everything. So whatever's going on at home, it'll stem over into the job. Whatever's going on, you dealing with, it'll stem over in some way, shape, form, and fashion. So we first and foremost deal with people and try to help people be successful in life. And then we'll translate that over into being successful at the job, etc. So that's how I do it. That's what inspires me.
Yeah. And that in itself is inspiring. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years later, you're still making such a huge impact in my life. So I've lived that leadership approach that you're talking about. So I know one, it's consistent and that isn't wavering. What would you say is your leadership brand if you could use one word to describe it?
My brand is a coach. That's kind of how I see myself as a coach. Um, a coach is someone that that tries, that oftentimes, you know, takes people no matter where they're at in life, and you meet them where they're at,
Mm.
and you rally them, you unify them around a common cause, right? I'm a leader of an office with people all across the country, all different backgrounds and experiences, all different levels of, education, skill sets, etc. But I approach everyone and I try to understand truly who you are and meet you where you're at, and unify everybody under the goal of, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And in that, you have to invest in people. You have to also provide structure. You have to provide discipline.
Mm.
You have to provide leadership. And you have to be honest and you have to be truthful. Successful coaches are people that, you know, when people recognize that you care, that's what, that's what they attach to. Oh, you care about me.
Mm.
You care about what I'm going through. I can rally behind that, you know.
Yeah.
And coaches can also be coached,
Yeah.
right? Um, so for me, I have other leaders, and I look at them as coaches as well. I look at it like a game almost, of like everyone plays a part. This is the position. You're a position coach. This is the position you play. So if you're a team leader, this is your position you play. If you are a CSL, you may be like the assistant coach. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm.
everyone plays a part. It all works together. If we got a great game plan in place. Me as like the head coach or like that, hey, we putting in the game plan about how we going to approach this week or how we going to approach this situation. But we all in this thing together. So I kind of look at myself, and my style of leadership is that as a coach, not a RCL, not a boss, none of that. I'm a coach.
Yeah. Every good coach knows that it's important to give feedback, candid feedback, when sometimes that feedback can be difficult to receive. So,
Right.
what would you say to someone who struggles to receive that candid feedback that could be helpful for them?
That's a great question. Um, Feedback is tough, man. It's a tough thing. But for people that struggle with feedback, and I was one that struggled with feedback. I don't like negative feedback. I'm human like everyone else. Like, first and foremost, you gotta acknowledge that no one likes to hear negative things or things where you may be, your opportunity areas are pointed out.
Yeah.
That's a struggle for most folks. But the way I've, tried to lead and the way I try to overcome those things myself personally is you have to, you in life, you have to be open-minded. Life is like a parachute. Um, in problems and feedback, it's the same way in the sense of, in order for the parachute to work, it has to be open.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in order for us to move forward, you first have to understand that I'm aligned with you being successful. So let's make sure we understand the common ground. The common ground we have at places, I want you to win
Yeah.
and you want to win. So with that understanding, know that my job is to help provide the guidance and instruction, etc. In these moments. So I'm not gonna tell you anything, to hurt you. I'm not gonna tell you anything to harm you. So any feedback that I got to give you, good, bad, or indifferent, is positive feedback,
Hmm.
even if it's negative,
Yeah.
even if it's perceived as negative. So I would tell folks, look, just like in life, when you have negative things that happen to you, or bad experiences that happen to you, there's always a hidden good.
Hmm.
And your job is to identify the hidden good, even in a bad situation. There is some good that's there.
Yeah.
But your job and our process is to figure out what that hidden good is. Same thing goes with the feedback. There's hidden good
Yeah.
in that feedback. It may be tough. And I share my own personal experiences about feedback. I had a life-changing moment for me career-wise was my one of my RCLs in my early years was like, Franklin, I think you're talented. I think that you can go real far, and I may actually end up working for you one day. And this is me as an adjuster.
Mm.
And they said, but when you engage, sometimes I don't know if you're helping me or you're hurting me by the way you speak and engage and carry yourself. Sometimes the messages you may portray with your peers, I don't know if you know you're hurting me.
Mm.
And that was that was that changed my whole perspective. Because one, what was the hidden good? Basically, she was telling me, stop stirring the pot. That's what she was telling me, right? Like I didn't realize, but the hidden good was this. I didn't realize I was stirring the pot. I didn't realize I
Mm.
had influence. That was the hidden good.
Yeah.
You got influence. That's what she was telling me, but she didn't say it that way.
Mm.
I had to extract that out of the conversation. Dang, people are listening to me.
Mm.
People actually are following what I got to say. This is like, so this is before I started having those,
Right.
opportunities, before I was growing, this before I got those opportunities. It's me just raw. And that was the hidden good. That was a tough conversation because it was like, she checked me. I didn't necessarily, like being checked, but she checked me.
Yeah.
But that hidden good was she told me that people were listening to me and people were watching me and my words were powerful. Man, that was very, when I sat back and thought about that, man, like I said, that's why I said it changed my whole career trajectory of my career.
Mm.
Because now I paid attention to stuff that while I was normally just talking and have a conversation with my peers, now I'm paying attention to what I'm saying,
Yeah.
how I'm saying, and people's reaction. And I'm saying, does this line up with what my RCL is trying to do?
Mm.
Or does this not line up? It was profound.
Yep. And it looks like it really made the impact that it was meant to. And the thing with the gold is it doesn't always come out as gold. You have to sift for it. It looks like dirt sometimes,
Right.
and you've got to get your sifter and really work at it. But you find
Mm-hmm.
those nuggets that can be so instrumental, so crucial in your development as a person that
Right.
then can bleed out into the rest of your life.
Hey, absolutely. And it's so funny, thinking about my career going forward and when I was leading continuous improvement and I had to first learn continuous improvement. And one of the things that you would identify with is like, we would say, when we're talking to the red and green, there's gold in the red. Same concept.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so that was years ago. And like, it's funny, like how life happens and how things turn because now I'm preaching that message through implementing CI,
Yeah.
across claims, gold in the red. Same concept.
It's when you allow yourself to flip that switch, your perspective changes and it can do some phenomenal things in your
Right.
life. What's next for you? What makes you excited about life? What makes you excited about your next steps in your career?
Yeah. Um, so one of the things, while leading the office, one of the things that, man, I've been blessed to have an opportunity to do is be a part of the claims inclusive diversity and equity team. And, last year, with all the social justice movements and things like that that were going on and transpiring, and then Allstate decided to take a stand, with regards to some of those things. And I really identified with um, the things that were going on in the communities that we live,
Hmm.
and then B, I recognized there was an opportunity to try to help people to heal and try to help people to unite again under a common banner in the middle of so much division.
Hmm.
So, um, I was afforded the opportunity to participate in the inclusive diversity and equity team, and now I lead it, and trying to come up with initiatives to help us, drive a culture of inclusivity, drive a culture that allows people to bring your full self to work, regardless of your background, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your religion. You need, we want to make sure that you come into an environment where you don't feel like any of those things are the reasons
Mm.
or could be contributing factors to you maybe not moving ahead.
Mm.
We want to make sure that, uh, this is a place where you can grow and develop and be your best self.
Yeah.
So it's about changing the culture or improving the culture. So those are things that motivate me currently and get me excited about, whatever the next steps are for me. I would one day love to be an officer um, here with the company,
Mm.
but I don't know if that's in my cards. Um, but that doesn't stop me.
Mm.
You know what? You know, because again, that doesn't move me. My movement and what motivates me comes from, again, helping people. So
Mm.
I'm very passionate about trying to help people live into this whole inclusive and diverse environment that we're trying to create within claims and really within the organization. So I was on calls today trying to, give some advice, feedback, tidbits to
Mm.
some folks in a different zone. Um, and that's critically important to me
Yeah.
because I think unfortunately sometimes people see ID and E as just race,
Mm.
and it's so much more than that. Um, and we're one of the things I'm passionate about is trying to break the so when we think about the equity component of that, the equity component of that is recognizing that there is an opportunity that exists in our non-exempt workforce, for example.
Mm.
So we have a lot of great things that the company Allstate itself provides. Um, but a vast majority of our folks don't get a chance to participate because they're non-exempts,
Wow.
which negatively impacts
Yeah.
what their experience is at, here at the company,
Yeah.
which negatively impacts, their approach to development, how they see themselves fitting in, etc. So how do we break that barrier? How do we overcome that? Right. So now I've taken it from individual conversations, so I still have those.
Mm.
Now I'm trying to, leverage, those skill sets on a broader stage to have broader influence on the masses within claims. And so that's what gets me
Mm.
stoked,
Yeah.
pumped up, because now I started out individual conversations, etc. And now I'm being able to use the talents to help influence over 14,000 people.
Wow.
So
Yeah. That's some remarkable work. It needs to be done, and I'm very happy you're one of the individuals leading that work. Uh,
thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm excited for what comes of it and how it shapes our organization and really bleeds into our communities because we need that desperately.
Right. No, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So we have a segment on the show called "What's That Moment," where we ask our our guests obscure questions about their favorite show. And understand your favorite show is Married at First Sight.
Yes, man. Favorite show is Married. That's a show me and my wife watch. So it's like our show. So it's kind
Yeah,
of like I don't watch it without her. Type of deal.
yeah.
So it's a one of those shows.
Would you be up to answering some trivia questions on that?
Sure, sure.
All right, all right. So some of them are obscure, some might be real easy, and some might be a little difficult.
All right.
Four questions. Question number one: in which year did the American version of Married at First Sight premiere?
Oh man, look, let me see. In which year the American version, the very first? Now this is what, like season 13, I think. So 13 years ago. What year was that?
I'm trying to
I'm throwing
think.
back on you.
Yeah, right. The answer that I was given from Google was 2014. So that does kind of. I don't even. That does add up. Does it add up?
No, it don't add up,
No, it
right? I
doesn't.
think it's like season 13,
Oh
but I
man.
think
Well, it's
because of
possible
the
they do
pandemic, they had some.
two
They did
seasons a
two.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
That would make sense if they did like a beginning of the year, end of year type thing. A lot of shows like that do
Right, right. Yeah.
that. Yeah, so
No, absolutely.
2014.
Yeah.
Se-
Look, I wouldn't be a fan like that to where I know it
right.
that well.
Understood. All right, so this one you might get. Question number two:
All
who
right.
pairs up the couples that get married? What are they called?
Oh man, these are your your So one of them is a minister, one of them is a relationship expert, and one of them is a you know so they're different, I guess therapists and counselors, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yep. That's the group. That's the group that it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Question number 3. How long is the actual Married at First Sight experiment?
8 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal how they can get all of that taped and wrapped up and
Right,
so much progress in that short amount of time.
right.
There is a number of couples in each season that the experts match. How many couples do they typically match a season?
I think five.
Yeah,
I think there are five couples.
absolutely. Well, you got 3 out of 4 right, so that's pretty
Yeah,
good. I
all
would
right.
say that's pretty good. Thanks for
Yeah, man.
playing.
No, no problem, no
And
problem. Thank you. I enjoyed it. That was a fun little blitz.
thanks for taking time out of your day to be on the show to talk about leadership, your story a bit, and how important being open minded is. It really is to your development as a person. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
No, I appreciate you having me on the show. I'm really proud of the work that you and Eli are doing. And man, I'm very excited to see your growth and see your family's growth and just you know good people, giving back to the community and things like that. So I'm familiar with the story, your background and things like that. So man, I'm honored to be on the show, and just very very excited to see really what your journey continues to unfold and how that goes, man. So I enjoy watching that. So whether it be professionally or here personally, so thank you and kudos to you and Eli.
Well, thanks so much, Franklin. Those words they hold a lot of weight with us, and it means a lot. So we appreciate you so much.